Hello, and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we encountered our first magic battle. Yes, we finally have magic at our plot, and involved Aoko and Alice setting up a barrier or a bounded field. And Aoko was like fighting some kind of puppet thing. She thought it was a real deal of someone, I don't know who, but she ended up beating the puppet, was disappointed that it was a puppet, and then now she's trying to find the person that witnessed the event and potentially permanently silence them. And yeah, I guess now we're going back to school. She's trying to track the students in her school because she saw that they were wearing a student uniform. And we all know who it is, but let's see what she finds out and hopefully see what happens afterwards. The following day was a typically overcast one. The day's classes ended as they had started, uneventfully. Winter break was just around the corner, and with it, final exams. Although Misaki High prided itself on discipline, it was still a private school, and as such promoted a culture of independence amongst its students. Industrious students had a place to explore that side of themselves under the guardianship of the student council president. More easygoing students could spend their time after school as they wished, as long as they were mindful of personal responsibilities. The fact that the poster boy of the independence was a student council vice president indicated just how vast the spectrum was. Wait, it values independence, but everyone is forced to join a club? Does that mean it doesn't?
Aozaki, iruga?
Tobimaru Tsukiji threw open the door to the satellite student council room, the rumored location for their secret meetings. Despite all appearances, he was a student council vice president who also happened to be the poor soul responsible for executing the student council's dirty work. She's already pissed off. My god, I love it. One person was waiting for him in the cramped room. The student council president, Aoko Aozaki, sat imperiously in a folding chair, glaring at Tobimaru and his boisterous entrance. Alright, it's supposed to be the end of November or early December by this point. So as not to succumb to Aoko's oppressive silence, Tobimaru opened with some casual small talk. Small talk, we don't do that here. Tobimaru closed the door and sat down across from Aoko. He was holding a blue envelope. Tobimaru was halfway to agreeing with Aoko before he caught himself and began to shake his head. As much as Tobimaru enjoyed the lack of red tape in his new line of work, he was not ready to turn full spy on his first day on the job. Oh, I missed it. Ah, okay, so that's the file. He tossed the envelope onto the table. Aoko picked it up and began to scan through the documents that were inside. She entered her own little world, not sparing the slightest bit of attention for Tobimaru. If ignoring other people was a skill, she would be a master at it. So cold. The room was filled with a chilling silence. Aoko continued reading without an ounce of emotion upon her face. Though Tobimaru kept up an air of indifference, his stare remained fixed intently on her. Face change. Whether or not he was convinced, Tobimaru stood up from his chair with a disappointed expression.
最後まで読めばわかるだろうが、あんまり確証は取れなかったぜ。というより、 一昨日あの辺りにいた生徒はいないって話になりそうだ。まあ断定はできないけどな。
No longer concerned over his task, Tobimaru headed towards the door, as if to say it was out of his hands.
そうだ。そういえば、一人だけ該当しなかったやつがいる。季節外れの転入生までは、青崎も調べきれなかったみてえじゃねえか。
I wonder who it could be. Aoko raised her head ever so slightly. He was right. The recent transfer student was not included within the scope of her investigation.
そんなわけで、その字に関しては調べてないぜ。まあ、あいつならいつだろうと遅くまでバイトだろうが。いや、人殺しを見たなんてこと口走ってるようじゃ、家で悪い夢でも見てたのかもしれねえか。
Well, there we go. Tobimaru cheerfully left the student council room. She said, Simultaneously, Aoko felt her fingers go numb, and the documents she was holding spilled all over the table. She broke out into a cold sweat and tried to tell herself that there must be some kind of mistake. However, the uncomfortable feeling in her gut would simply not go away. Perhaps her intuition was almost always right at times like these. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! And yet, she knew what she had to do. She would not have hesitated to kill Tobimaru if he had been the witness. But if it was him, just considering the possibility caused her blood to run cold. Aoko put her forehead in her hands and began to brood. And then, suddenly, let us talk choice. You will always be faced with choices. A virtuous fool and a wicked sage. You cannot save both. You must pick one. That is the freedom granted to you. 2 years earlier, Aoko muttered the words offered by her grandfather the day she replaced her elder sister as his successor and let out a sigh of lament. She laughed at her own intuition, but it was no joke. If only those words had never been said. Aoko locked up the student council room and left for the day. Calmly, as though nothing untoward had happened, she greeted the students as they passed her in the halls. She was almost shocked by how natural she seemed. There were still plenty of students at the school. The grounds were noisy, with the chattering of students who had finished the day but had yet to go home. Others still had club activities. The gray sky looked ready to pour, but nobody seemed to pay any mind. Amidst the clamor, Aoko hastened to the school gate. She passed by some students in animated conversation. They seemed to be talking about their after-school plans. Apparently, they were adamant about maximizing their free time. She could not figure out how they could possibly be so irresponsibly focused on fun, but at the same time was in no mood to make fun or feel envious of them. 2 short years prior, she had been just like them. She retied her scarf, this time more tightly, to give off an air of solitude, but she was fooling no one. Oh man, her ribbon I thought was a scarf, so I thought she had a giant scarf on top of her smaller scarf on the bottom. After that, what people who feign solitude are really masking is rejection. Oh, after all. The area by the school gate was busier than usual. A group of boys appeared to be huddled behind it. Their transparent attempt to be discreet in terms of both location and loudness of voice did nothing to hide the fact that they were noisily arguing about a girl standing alone on the other side of the street. It's about her. Oh no, it's Alice! The girl was cloaked in a black cape. At first glance, it could have been mistaken for a normal attire, but those from Misaki could tell that she wore the uniform of a prestigious girls' school. Said school had no connection to Misaki High in any way, shape, or form. The two schools were miles apart, both physically and spiritually. A member of that school's student body was a rare sighting, as the majority were forced to live in the school dorm. Reian Girls Academy had a reputation as a school for princesses, and it was rare indeed for one to be slumming with the common folk. Oh, with the peasants! Oh! That alone would have been enough to cause the ruckus amongst the boys, but this girl looked to be the epitome of class. One could not help but describe the standing figure as charming. The way she silently, motionlessly waited was reminiscent of a meticulously composed portrait. Aoko took one look at her before instantly recalling that one word, solitude.
まったくうちの男子どもは家に帰りもせず陰でこそこそやってるのはそういうこと。
She's like, "Go away, boys! You're causing a ruckus." Disgusted, Aoko barged through the gate. At this point, she would normally head home, but today she crossed the street towards the waiting girl.
あれなるは生徒会長様くそ、おっぱらう気なのかよ。痛いんならいつまでだっていさせてあげればいいじゃんか。てか怒られるのあの天使。
Versus the angel.
よその生徒でも校門前にいるぐらいなら別に問題はないと思うけど。青子女子は容赦ねえからな。下手すると平手だぜ。平手。
Madam Aoko. The boys ran their mouths behind her back. Not in the mood to shut them up, Aoko walked right up to the girl and offered an informal wave.
どうしたのアリス？こんなところに来たって何も面白いことはないって言ったのに。
ありえねえ！
Oh! Aoko heard the boys by the gate lose their collective minds and did her best to ignore them.
あのことを確かめに。アオコ、あの人たち邪魔なんだけど。
Yes, they are.
わかってる。今追っ払うから。
In contrast to Alice's small voice, Aoko spoke loud and clear. I'll chase them off! Naturally, this was on purpose, so as to deal with the riffraff by the gate all at once.
会長こっち来んぞ。おい、押すなよ。後ろのやつどけって。
Run away! Run away!
いやでもあの子会長と知り合いなんでしょ。うまく会長に紹介してもらうとか。
I can introduce you to the ground.
さすが一年坊主。まだ戦場の現実ってもんを理解していねえ。よし、死の間際までいい夢見ろよ。
Yes, dream on. Perhaps because too many of them had gathered in one place, the mob entered a frenzied panic as they tried to escape. Aoko addressed them all.
さーて、部活動があるわけでもなし、ただ家に帰るだけの帰宅部の皆さん、こんなところで何を集まってるのか教えてくれる？
The student council president stared daggers at the boys.
何しろ試験前だもの。身になることなら私も教えてほしいけど、まさかガン首並べて女学院のお嬢様を眺めてただけなんてことはないわよね。
Oh, I almost misread that. It's like, oh man, it'd sure be horrible if instead of going home to study, you're in the hospital.
声をかける勇気もなくて眺めてただけなんてことは。
Oh, cold, but very true. Not one of them was brave enough to admit that this hit the nail on the head. If any of them had such courage, they would have already been chatting up the young lady up.
いや、僕教室にちょっと忘れ物で。こんなオチならダメ元で玉砕しとくんだった。天文部に行って双眼鏡借りるのどうだ。屋上からお顔を賜るとか。
Oh my god, this school is full of stalkers.
天文部にそんなのねえよ。あるとしたら野鳥同好会じゃね。
Wild Bird Society.
それ先月会長が潰したじゃん。鳥めでてる暇があるなら彼女作れって。
Oh snap.
ああ、彼女作れですか。すみませんす。今日は裏口から帰るっす。さき。くそ。
Oops.
じゃあな会長。また明日。
That Zaki really threw me off. I wasn't sure if they were talking about a different boy or Aozaki. And with those oh so charming remarks, the boys scattered with their tails between their legs.
楽しそうね、アオコ。あ、わかる？
Oh my god, I love this face. She's like, Aoko's response slipped out all too easily. In truth, there were not that many bad apples at Misaki High, and dealing with them wasn't really that bad.
で、ここまで出向くってことは何か分かったの？
結界に残っていた気配の識別は、あとはここで確かめればいいだけよ。
そう。ん？アリス、いつからここに？
下校時刻から。
So she had been there for roughly an hour. Damn! Standing in the same place for an hour would be taxing for someone as sensitive to the cold as Alice.
悪いわね、無理させて。
別に好きでやってることだから。
I like standing here in the cold. As she spoke, her black eyes were fixed upon the gate and the students passing through it. She had likely been observing the gate in this manner for the past hour.
私を待ってたわけじゃないんでしょ？今からでも付き合うわ。
Alice nodded in assent. If Alice was still here, it meant that she had not found the witness yet. If she had found the student, Alice would have already gone home ahead of Aoko and begun research on the student's background.
私の方はダメだった。
Oh, she's hiding it. Even though, I mean, she had never confirmed it, but she knows that's probably gonna be Sojuro. She reported the results of Tobimaru's investigation. Alice remained silent. With that, the conversation ended, leaving the two to silently endure the freezing wind. The silent stakeout dragged on endlessly. Students continued to pass the gate, each shocked at the sight of the unusual combo, and headed home. After 20 minutes, Aoko let a sigh escape her mouth, perhaps from the boredom, perhaps from the cold, or perhaps from both.
ねえ、アリス。帰り黎明に寄ってかない？
Oh, wait. Is Dawn that restaurant that Sojuro works at? I think so. Aoko quickly turned to Alice to catch her reaction. Dawn was the name of one of Aoko's favorite coffee shops. Oh, never mind. Offering no clear indication as to whether she was critical of Aoko's blasé attitude or agreeing with her whims, Alice's gaze shifted ever so slightly. Aoko followed her stare.
あれ、青崎も待ち合わせか?
Ah, she found him. He's dead. He's going to die. The sudden voice took her off guard. There was only one person who spoke with this gentle, good-natured tone.
そう。やっぱそうなるわけか。
Oh man, how's this gonna turn out? Turning her back to Alice, Aoko moved her focus towards the newly appeared student. Just look at this, look at this.
それで、今日は何の用？
All politeness flew out the window. Already in a bad mood, Aoko's mood plummeted the longer she looked at Sojuro. The subtlety of her expression, however, was lost on him.
いや、これから駅前で水泳部の部長と待ち合わせなんだけど、そのことでお礼を言っておきたくて。
Huh? Well, that was completely unexpected. Thanks. Joining club. Aoko had a hunch that he was about to say something brainless.
ふーん。お礼って、お礼参りってこと？
Fortunately, Sojuro was completely unaware of the more sinister implications to the word payback.
よくわからないけど、そんな大したことじゃないよ。ただ、水泳部は夏までそう忙しくないって話だったから。
Sojuro was just about to thank her for recommending a club that would not take up too much of his time, when Aoko cut him off with an expression of disinterest.
当然でしょ。幽霊部員になりそうな生徒なんて紹介できないから。忙しいあなたでも務まりそうな場所があったから口に出しただけよ。
なるほど、無駄がないね。
His open admiration of her sapped Aoko's will to fight. Actually, now I think about it, did Sojuro see Alice that night? He saw a couple of students. I remember the flamethrower and the naginata, which, you know, were Aoko's fire magic and the doll, probably. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember if he mentioned multiple students. Finding a suitable club and negotiating with its captain hadn't been an efficient use of her time at all.
とにかくお世話になったから、それで礼を言っときたくて。
Sojuro gratefully dipped his head, but not before the flustered Aoko stopped him.
よしてよ。 今あなたにそんなことされても迷惑だから。
Dot dot dot.
水泳はどう？やっていけそう？
An awkwardness infiltrated her previously sharp gaze. Sojuro was able to pick up on the odd change in her behavior, but could not divine its reason. So he simply started with what he knew so far and reported the most recent information he had.
ああ、水泳部はクビになった。
なんでよ！
Alright. Look at her this time. She's like, come on, all that work I did, all the negotiation, you threw it out the window. Aoko instinctively shouted at an unexpected response, like a human jack-in-the-box. The unexpected development threw her mind in a tizzy, and she momentarily forgot the complicated feelings she had been wrestling with.
だって今から待ち合わせだって。
それはこれからヤシロギの温水プールに連れて行ってくれるからだよ。
Sojuro stated this very matter-of-factly to the still reeling Aoko.
話がつながらない。そこまでうまくいってるのに、どうして入部を拒否されるのよ、あんたは。
そりゃ俺が泳げないから。
Oh my god. Aoko was like, would you rather run or swim? And he chose swimming, even though he can't swim. Aoko reached up with her fingers and pinched the bridge of her nose as she processed his answer.
しずきくん、昨日の私の質問は覚えてる？走るのか泳ぐのか、どっちがいいかってやつ。私の記憶は正しいけど、一応確認しておくわね。あなた、確かに泳ぐ方だって言ったけど。
ああ、昔から泳げないのはなんとか克服したかったんだ。反対に走る方は得意だけど。
To be fair, her question was extraordinarily vague. Her energy spent, Aoko finally understood.
俺が1年なら1から鍛えてくれたらしいんだけど。
あ
と3ヶ月で3年になる身分なのに、金槌の部員は雇えないそうだ。けど部長が親身になってくれて、これから泳ぎを教えてくれることになったんだよ。
Sojuro's words were spoken from a place of joy, a fact that failed to reach Aoko.
つまり欠陥品を売りつけたってわけか。こりゃ水泳部の部長に合わす顔がないと。ちょっと待った。
Wait, isn't the captain a...
しずきくん、水泳部の部長って。
She stopped herself short of a girl. She was afraid of how she might look, that she might not be able to rein herself in if she started.
もういいわ。気持ちは分かったから、どこか遠くにいてくれない？少し疲れてて、とてもじゃないけどあなたの相手はしていられないの。
飛び丸もそんなことを言ってたな。青崎は昨日と今日、珍しく疲れてるって。何かあったのか？
I mean, you saw it.
ちょっとね。でもいいの。解決したみたいだから。
I will kill you later.
それより、しずきくんはどう見える？私、そんなに疲れて見えるのかな？
Why had she asked him this? Blurting out things for no reason and on impulse. This was not usual for Aoko. Perhaps it was because she realized that this would be their last chance to have a normal conversation. After a few moments of contemplation, Sojuro conjured up a grin that cut straight through the tension.
そうだな。疲れているというより生き生きしているように見える。仕方なく畑を耕していた狼が久しぶりに狩りに出ることになって機嫌を上げている感じだ。
Like a wolf that's been forced to plow fields for a long time, but is excited to finally go on a hunt again. Huh, that is an interesting analogy. He seemed so cheerful, like he was so happy for her. Without thinking, Aoko's hands went to her cheeks. If what he had said it was true, then she was grinning from ear to ear. There was just no way she would have made such a mistake.
とにかくありがとう。じゃあ、また明日。
Perhaps still not comfortable enough to wave at her, he said his goodbye with sincerity in his voice and smile, and took his leave.
待って。こんな話があるの。聞いてから言って。
Aoko called out after him. Her voice was cold as she had admonished herself for having been somewhat affable earlier.
意味のない例え話よ。そうね。あなたが空腹で死にそうな時、目の前に同じように空腹で死にそうな2匹の動物がいるとするわ。しずきくんに銃をあげる。それでどちらかの動物を撃って。右はライオンで左は子猫。選ぶのはあなたの自由だから。
It was a fable-like moral dilemma. A lion or a cat? Especially the way in which it was a cruel and rather preachy. The kind that if you thought too hard about it, you would never find an answer. Sojuro answered quickly and calmly. Lion?
撃たないと思うよ。
Okay.
だって自分の好きにしていいんだろ。それにほら、空腹ならお互い様だ。
He was not in the least fazed by the dilemma. He gave the most innocent response. So innocent, in fact, that it would give anyone pause.
長生きするわ、あなた。
すごいセリフだな。そんなことを言われたのは多分君が初めてだ。
You're gonna live a long life next life after I kill you. Adorning his face was a smile wholly out of sync with his comment.
何よそれ。
She regretted stopping him. If only she had just watched him go, this conversation would have never happened. Sojuro Shizuki made his way down the sloped street. Today, just like every day, he probably had to work late again. Only Aoko and Alice remained, with Alice doing what she could to simply blend in.
つくづくこっちのペースを乱してくれるわね。あの人畜無害の田舎者は。
Aoko clenched her right fist tightly as she cursed out loud. Anything to prevent herself from screaming at the top of her lungs. Whether that scream would be directed towards Sojuro or towards herself was another matter entirely. Aoko heard Alice's soft voice behind her. Aoko knew exactly what she was going to say, as she had known for the entire time. Ever since Alice, having shown up with no reaction to any of the other students, changed her impression upon seeing Sojuro.
言わなくてもいい。あいつでしょ、目撃者は。
Yes. Yes, it is Aoko. Her voice was cold as ice. It was the voice of someone talking about a complete stranger. The lion and the kitten. There were pros and cons to choosing either of these animals, the point being that she had asked him to choose one of them. In terms of risk, the lion was the more dangerous choice. The instant the gun was pointed at it, there was a chance that it would fight back. Those who chose the lion required more courage, but any sense of guilt that came with holding the gun would be forgotten. Lions are fierce creatures, a poor excuse to shoot an animal, perhaps, but one that certainly helped alleviate the guilt. But what about the kitten, the weaker creature? It goes without saying that the kitten would be the easier target of the two, but choosing it would be a disquieting decision for anyone. Even if the kitten had no chance to survive, it was still too senseless to carry out. And to Aoko, Sojuro was that choice.
てっきり私もそうだと思ってた。
When she had felt that sinking feeling in the student council room, she ignored it. There was no getting around what must be done, she told herself. Until, that is, Sojuro went and said what he did, causing her resolve to waver. But the discomfort in her chest did not stem from any guilt she may have felt. She could care less for Sojuro. He was weak, and would be incredibly easy to deal with. Yet, for some reason, she could not dispel her reservations. A transfer student who moved to the city from the middle of nowhere, with no family to speak of. Few would notice that if he were to suddenly disappear compared to a person of some renown. If she were to kill him, it would be as simple as wringing a cat's neck. And it would all serve just to piss her off. It was too lucky. Like everything was neatly handed to her. She wanted to just dropkick it right into orbit.
信じられない。私嫌がってる。これは違う。
She said if it was Toby Mara, she'd gladly kill him in a heartbeat. So wow.
こんなの私じゃない。
Standing behind her, Alice heard all of the muttering. Nevertheless, she seemed to ignore it and said,
彼、首に布を巻いていたわね。
Finally! Someone pointed out. A wholly unrelated topic. Aoko returned to her senses.
首？
ええ。水泳部の首とかけていたのかしら。
I always assumed that he had like a mark or something. Maybe magic? I don't know. Maybe that's how he got got through the barrier. Maybe he's some kind of magical being. I mean, the crapshoot like theory I had that, you know, I just threw out there just for the sake of having it on record is that maybe that's the thing that Aoko essentially like made in the beginning of the story when she made something. Alice had put much thought into this, as if it had a deeper meaning to her somehow.
そういえば、あいつ初めて会った時も首に布巻いてたっけ？襟を行儀よく締めてるから目立たないけど。
I noticed immediately. The conversation turned to idle nonsense. And though it solved none of her current problems, it did help calm Aoko's frazzled nerves.
サンキュー。落ち着いたわ、アリス。それと、気合も入った。善は急げ。あいつが言いふらす前に決着をつけよう。
He kind of already has. Pumped once more, Aoko turned her back to the school gate. For now, they would retire to the mansion and prepare for battle. Trees! Oh, man.
いつどこで彼を殺すの？
She said quietly so as to not be overheard by anyone else. Normally, Aoko had to rein in that side of Alice, out in the open as they were, but this was far from a normal situation.
今日の夜、場所はとっておきの夢の国よ。
She's gonna kill him in his sleep, using that thing that she got from Alice, like that thing that looked like a drug bottle. She gave a fearless laugh, a strangely pleasant sound like the kind one would make when meeting their lover. Ah, okay. That is the end of that chapter. Oh man, she's about to enact her plan. Whew. That's kind of scary. But yeah, now that we're done with that chapter, I'm going to check out the archive. I wanted to do whatever this thing was. So we have 4 volumes of the 7 Days of Spinning. I don't know what this is, but like, my plan is to essentially do them all as we get them, because I feel like if I were to do all this in post-game, I'd literally forget the timeline in which this happened. So I kind of want to do them all in like one go. So it's after the girl in the mansion and before lunchtime together. So it was during that week, sometime in that week between when she first met Sojuro and when she, when Sojuro had the conversation with Tobimaru. So yeah, let's head into this. 7 Days of Spinning Volume 1. I'm going to try to finish this entire thing, but with this episode, I don't know if I will, because who knows how long this will take, but hopefully we'll get it done. Morning in the city moved incredibly fast. It made one wonder if it was even a morning at all, with the people so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. The unfamiliar roar that awoke him reminded him of the rock slide. The identity of the monstrous sound was the engine of a motorcycle Mr. Yoshida, his neighbor, was leaving for work. It was hard to determine when the night ended and morning began here. The town's urbanization was synonymous with insomnia. Okay, so we're in the POV of Sojuro. He sluggishly lifted himself off the floor. He caught himself starting to survey his surroundings out of habit before deciding better of it, and made his way towards the washroom. Actually, this raises the question, like, how did he live before this, and like, what transitioned him into deciding to becoming a student? Where did he get the money to afford like his initial like rent, clothes, etc. to blend into society? Afterwards he got jobs, but like his initial capital, where did he get it? Or maybe he saved up somehow before he moved here. And like, who was he raised by? Was he raised by people in a mountain, in like the mountains? Maybe he got money from like whoever raised him. I just kind of imagine like him literally being raised by wolves, which is definitely wrong. There, he poured himself a cup of water and slowly gulped it down. Having been relegated to the well water until recently, he found the convenience pleasing. Pleased was definitely the word that would best describe how he felt. Civilization is about erasing inconveniences through optimization, the reduction of labor in our daily lives. Mr. Koga taught him that while the essentials were easier than ever to get our hands on, life itself was growing more and more complex. So too was it his duty to adjust to his new reality. As a distant relative of Sojuro's father, okay, Mr. Koga had taken Sojuro in, even though the boy had little more than a stranger in his life till that point. Ah, okay, so his father, he was raised by his father, I guess, and he had family connections to move to the city. Okay, that answers it. Mr. Koga had helped him get registered at school and find an apartment to lease. Though he had insisted that Sojuro handle his residence card and register his change of address by himself. Wait, so is Mr. Koga the neighbor? I think it was... No. His neighbor was Mr. Yoshida. This series of procedures proved exceedingly difficult for Sojuro, but knowing that this was part of his new city life, he did his best to complete them diligently. While they may have been a reputation for being a stickler for the rules, city offices aren't all that bad. It was the first thing Sojuro learned after the beginning of his life in the city. 2 weeks had elapsed since he left the countryside. As uneasy as living alone made him feel, he felt that he could make it work. It was not as if the people here spoke another language, and Mr. Koga was absolutely right about how practical the rules of the city were. Sojuro continued down the hard but surprisingly walkable path. Before work, he jogged in the park to pass time. Even exercise like this offered lessons for Sojuro to learn. This is a really nice looking park. Huh. Wow. Each passing person was a new face to look at. The old man who greeted him, the young worker with his eyes to the ground, and the girl on the bench surrounded by birds. They were all unfamiliar sights to Sojuro. Unaccustomed to the city, he labored to understand its rules. Whether they were complex or simple, or completely meaningless. Compared to the mountain life, which only dealt with nature, city life left one with way too many options. You can argue about such an environment that was toxic for Sojuro. His life was a string of unsettling moments, but amongst it all, there were rules that he sincerely admired. For one, that the city revolved around various forms of profit and loss. The fact that only one needed money to get the bare essentials to survive the city was a comforting thought to Sojuro. Is he going to one of his many jobs? Yep! Yeah, this is the same kitchen. Oh, that's Hosuke. Okay, yeah. They mentioned, oh, is it Hosuke Kinomi? So I guess his name tag says Kinomi. Maybe I'll call him that instead. But he mentioned that Kinomi was one of his co-workers at the restaurant.
金なんてものはあくまで記号で、本当に大事なのは別にあんだからさ。所詮は流動する肩たたき券と変わんねっつうが、別に1万円札食ってもうまくねっつうが。ともかく金で真心は買えねえじゃん。
Okay. Maybe.
じゃねえよ、ざけんなよ。俺は悲しいよ。ついこの間まで4000ポッチの日当に鹿みたいに首かしげていた正直者がくったらねえ皿洗いをしながら、まあ世の中金だよなんてボソッと言わないでくれっつな。
いや、貨幣制度は素晴らしいと思う。正直物々交換の限界を感じた。それより木の実、ふざけてるとそれ落とすぞ。
おお、やべやべ、次割ったら今度こそ俺の頭が割られちまうからな。
Oh man, how much have you broken here? Oh, are you a liability instead of actual like resources?
忠告サンキュー。それで相談事？何？もしかして金？
そうなんだ。とりあえずお金は大事で、たくさんあるに越したことはないって痛感した。なんで、できればもうちょっと働きたい。
He's like, oh no. If you're gonna ask me for money, then no, I'm suddenly way too broke, can't afford anything. But no, he's actually just asking for more jobs.
マシンみたいに皿洗いをこなしながら夢のないこと言わないでほしいな。世の中金じゃねえって言ったばかりじゃんか。やっぱラブじゃんか。ところで水冷たくないですかね。冬場の皿洗いって割り合わねえことこの上ねえよな。
そりゃ冷たいけど、これぐらいは我慢しないと。山の水は冷たいっていうより痛かったし。
He's built different. Had the training.
氷水と同じにすんな野生じめ。しかしあれだね、呆れた順能力、いや忍耐力つうの、レジ打ちすらできなかった新人がよ、たった4日でしみったれた飯屋の社畜になっちまうなんて、やっぱ世の中金ってことかね。
Capitalism.
資本主義ってすげえ。
うるせえぞバカバイト、文句あんならやめちまえ。うちにはごくつぶしにくれてやる小遣いはねえ。
The complaints and chopsticks flew at them like a storm. This mess of a Chinese restaurant manager was a stubborn man who was willing to let minors work for him and didn't shy from violence, even if it was directed at the son of a lifelong friend. Sojuro felt that this was what Sparta must have been like.
ほら怒られた。任されたことはきちんとやらないと。
け優等生、こっちは何かと反抗したい年頃だっつうの。
Oh man, I didn't know what brownie points meant until one of my family members told me about it. And it's not about, you know, like the brownies, like the dessert. No, it's about how far you can stick your nose up someone's butt. Oh man.
まあいいや、話は変わるんだけどよ。しずき夜に出歩くタイプ？それかチャリンコで出張る趣味？いやまあどっちかでいいんだけど。
I run with on all fours like a wolf.
バイトの帰りはほとんど夜になるけど、そういう話じゃないんだよな。夜の散歩も遠出も趣味じゃないけど、それが？
いや何さ、しずき引っ越してきたばかりだって言うからよ。俺らが言うのもなんだけど、うちちょい治安が悪いっての？柄が
Yeah.
悪いわけじゃねえんだけどな。
People with like flamethrowers and naginatas fighting in parks like every once in a while. Man, the city's weird. It might be normal here, but in the mountains, nah, I've never seen that before.
年間10人くらい通り魔事件っての？そういうの起きてっから。
通り魔ってなんだ？
そっからかよ。
Torima? You mean Torimaru? Oh!
なんだほら、カバン強盗でもないか。辻切りってのが近いのか。住宅街とかまだ森が残ってる方によく出上がるんだよ。そういうおかしいのが。なんであんまり夜遅くは出歩くなよな。三崎岡の公園とか有名な怪奇スポットだから。
I'm gonna go there later and see this weird fight.
通り魔の犯人は口裂け女だったって話知らねえか？
ごめん。まずその口裂け女ってのがわからない。
階段だよ。口が耳まで裂けてるってやつ。今じゃさすがに時代遅れだけどよ。
Ah, that's one of the urban legends or folk tales or is it a yokai? I don't know. I don't think it's a yokai, but one of those that are referenced a lot in Japanese media, the kuchisake onna.
なんだっけ？深夜の道にな、コート姿の女が待ち伏せていて、私、綺麗？とか聞いてくるんだよ。で、綺麗って言っても、いまいちって言っても家まで追っかけられて殺されるの。
I remember there's actually a flow chart. It's like if you say yes, she'll be like, "Oh, okay, then I'll make your mouth just like mine, so we can both be pretty or something." And then if you say no, she's like, "Oh, how dare you say I'm not pretty?" I forgot what the answer is. I think you say nothing, but yeah.
女の少年はおっかねえっつうか、アメコミの怪人っぽいっつうか。
いや、それ本気で怖くないか？家まで上がってくるのか？その女の人。
窓から入ってくるらしいぜ。ガサガサとこうゴキブリみたい。
Oh man, I knew it. He's gonna get beat up by the manager.
のクソガキが厨房でその4文字は禁止だってんだろ。殺すぞ。
Oh yeah, he's got a point. If you say cockroach in the kitchen, the people are gonna be like, I don't think I want to eat here no more. The back of Kinomi's head exploded in pain with the impact of his boss's frying pan. I don't know if you can get away with that if it weren't anime. Sojuro was reminded of just how dangerous this town could be.
こ ス殺すってバカじゃねえの。
Yeah, I'd like to see him try. Dude, he just did.
普通そっちの方が禁止用語じゃねえの。ここレストランなんだしさ。いや、あんまうまくねえけど。
ひなみ、頭大丈夫か？
え？ああ、心配無用。俺なんだか頑丈さには定評があるから。ともかくそういうわけなんで夜の暗がりは気をつけるぞな。もししずき見るからにカモそうな顔してるし。
It just occurred to me, like, he has a really large forehead. Yeah, because like through the cap, we can see that part's still skin.
ありがとう。ところで、年間10人というのは多い方なのか？
知んねえよ。少なくはないだろうけど多い方でもないんじゃないか。ま、うちの通り魔事件が他に比べて厄介なのはまだ犯人が見つかってないってことだからね。
He laughed cheerfully. Kinome was probably trying to take the edge off his story, but the noble intention of his laugh was completely lost on Sojuro. His friendly warning was equally futile. Sojuro was simply impressed that Kinome was able to laugh it off. It is nighttime. The slasher is on his way to your home. On the way home, nobody ahead or behind, Sojuro proceeded through the dimly lit street when suddenly... Oh! He turned to face an improbable sound. Oh god! Ah, ow! Something stabbed him in the head and fell to the floor. He frowned. A small bird had apparently flown into the telephone pole before landing on his head. What? The starling cleaned itself off and flew away. Wait, so a bird flew into one of these poles and just dropped on his head, beak first? Wow. So sometimes they say if a bird poops on you, it might be good luck. What about this? What if the bird just lands on you? The falling of the bird and its desperate escape thereafter was unlike anything he had experienced in his life up until now. Most of the townsfolk would have seen the incident as unlucky or ominous, or even sinister, but Sojuro just nodded and went about his business. You understand. What might have been a first for him was surely an everyday occurrence for these city folk. Huh. So I guess maybe these are just Sojiro's, like, daily life. That was actually pretty interesting. Yeah. Gotta meet Hosuke again. Yeah, let's just hop into volume 2. I wonder if that bird was one of the familiars from Alice. Oh, we're at the mansion this time.
たったいまー。ねえ、アリス帰ってる？教会から帰るとき、商店街でお土産もらっちゃった。
From the church?
伊勢屋のせんべい、一緒に食べない？
Oh, sorry. I misread that as I got some stuff from the arcade from the church. And I was like, wait, what? An arcade at the church? Isaiah rice crackers. Ooh, nice. Her voice reverberated through the foyer, dyed in the colors of the setting sun. It was after 5 in the afternoon when Aoko, still in her school uniform, cheerfully returned home. She had finished her student council duties and attended her monthly meeting with the church. Oh, right, because of the magic stuff. That the Magic Association, the church, or whatever are fairly close, I believe.
その様子なら何事もなく終わったみたいね。青。
The voice was coming from the second floor. In contrast with Aoko and her boundless energy, a considerably calmer girl descended from above.
難癖はつけられたけど滞りなく。うちの問題はうちの問題だから、今回も手は出さないって方向でまとまったわ。それでいいのよね、アリス。
ええ。猫の手なら借りたいけど、あの人たちの手は信用ならないし。いつも通り、後処理だけお願いしましょう。
賛成。後ろからバッサリやられかねないしね。だいたい、私もあんたも背中を気にして没頭できるからじゃないし。
私はできるけど。青子は単に、まだそれほどの余裕がないだけでしょ。
Tap, tap. With the graceful sounds of her steps, Alice entered to the foyer. As she did, Aoko's eyes were directed towards the skylight above.
ガラス、曇ってるわね。
そのことで話があるわ。 今日の課題が終わったらだけど。青子、体の調子は？疲れているなら休みを入れてもいいけど。
何よ気味悪いな。気遣いされることなんてないってば。いつも通りの一日だったし。そんな疲れた顔してる？私。
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put on autoplay because I feel like I've been accidentally skipping some stuff. So let's try to find the button for that. All right, autoplay is the L button. Completely forgot about that. As school activities went, today's were a breeze. At a glance, her school life might have seemed almost idyllic. Though, actually, nah, this is not gonna work. The auto advance is kind of slow. Though the more she thought about it, some of the headache-inducing incidents may have stood out here and there. Shows Sojuro in the background. And with some sincere introspection, Aoko may have recognized the signs of her own mental fatigue, but doing so would have further added to her stress.
ストップ。なんで帰ってきてまであんなののことで疲れなくちゃいけないんだ、私。今日の課題って初歩のウィッシュでしょ？問題ないわ。すぐ始めましょう。今日はなんか勢いでうまくいきそうな気もするし。
Aoko focused on shedding her anger and stress, and headed upstairs with gusto.
どうしたのよ？アリスの部屋でやるんじゃないの？
The formally dressed Alice nodded in slight dissatisfaction.
それで、伊勢屋のせんべいって今日の？
I want some. Give me some now. That is now mine. She looked at the freshly baked treats that Aoko was holding. In the end, their lesson took place after Alice had her cup of tea. For an apprentice like Aoko, Alice Kuonji was the kind of roommate and teacher that was hard to come by. If she insisted that Aoko rest to preserve her health, Aoko had no choice but to comply. The lesson was over after 2 hours, so the two finished the dinner they had prepared and decided on a change of venue for where they would spend the last hours of the day. The sunroom was next to the drawing room in the east wing of the residence and offered a view of the beautiful grounds. The proud Kuonji's estate's luxurious sunroom featured furnishings on par with those in the splendid drawing room. Meanwhile,
来年の夏はジャングルね。この分だと。
wait, it's gonna be a jungle come next year's summer? So, okay, all the trees are gonna just grow. Got it. The grounds outside had fallen to disrepair, neglected by their owner.
ねえアリス、庭掃除専用のプロイとかいないの？
Aoko took a step into the sunroom and poured some tea.
探せばいるかもしれないけど、少し手間ね。
Playing along with her roommate's joke, Alice made to sit in her chair. Ah, the sweets. Just as she had caught sight of the box of chocolates on the table, her lovely eyes narrowed into in a frown. She's like,
何よ、言っとくけど、今日の失敗は半分アリスのせいよ。おせんべいで気が緩んだのが敗因っていうか、そりゃウィッシュのつもりがガンドになっちゃったのは我ながら攻撃的すぎると思うけど。
So wish into a gander. Kind of forgot what that is.
6個減ってるわ。
なんだ、そっちのことか。
Aoko's eyes stared intently at the box of chocolates. You could search the world and never find a finer selection of chocolates. The brand was Sixpence Songs, apparently.
で、鏡の話をするんだっけ？あれ、今洋館モードから岬モードになってるんでしょ？
ええ。ここの管理はおざなりになるけど、岬市だけに切り替えたわ。それが昨日から曇り出している。
Wait, what does this mean? The mansion can take care of itself for the time being, so I changed it to its target to Misaki City? And there's a mansion mode and a Misaki... Things could have been cloudy. I don't understand.
少しずつだけど、確実に包囲されてるわね。
包囲って数が増えたってこと？
捕捉していた1名はもちろん、他にもう2名ほど不審者を目撃済み。都市部に1、郊外の森に2ね。
What are they talking about?
はあ、あんたの目撃談は当てになるからな。で、うるさいのはどっち？
森の方。捕捉中だけど、こっちの目に気づいているみたい。なかなか誘いに乗ってこないわ。
そっか。じゃあ今夜仕掛ける。
To go after it tonight. One simple suggestion that would change the course of her life forever. It was no overstatement to say that this was the roll of the dice that would decide whether she had the moxie to survive her experience of jumping out of a plane with a torn parachute. So is this what made her go and attack that one doll, maybe? Aoko swallowed her hesitation and fear with a little tea. On the school's anniversary night, she declared that she had made up her mind, and from that time on, she would not waver. Alice welcomed her roommate's strength with the barest hint of regret. As someone who shares the same motivations as her, Alice was ultimately reassured by Aoko's resolve. Well, perhaps more pleased than reassured. All in all, it had taken the better part of the year, but finally Aoko had stepped out of Alice's shadow. The two partners now shared the same fate. Aoko was not the partner Alice had asked for, but a partner nonetheless. Strangers, worlds apart. And even if eventually they would battle each other to the death using all they had inherited, it was only right that they did it on equal terms. It was, at least for now, a cause for celebration over how far Aoko had come.
せっかくだけど、今夜は私一人で十分よ。そんな余裕があるのなら、あなたはもう少し暗示の練習をするべきね。公演はあなたの担当だから、その時は働いてもらうけど。
Alice did not so much as look at Aoko as she explained her reasons. The scale of the enemy she would face that night. Her plans for Aoko. For in only 2 days from now, Aoko Aozaki would be reborn.
はいはい、わかりました。
So this is leading up to that magic fight. Yeah. I gotta do these as I get them. Okay, cool. Aoko finished her tea and stood up from her seat.
お言葉通り、暗示の練習でもやってるわ。一節目は確か、軽く弱く、うまく早く、チクタクチクタク、急げや急げ、よね。
そこは、軽く弱く、うまく早く、急げや急げ、チクタクチクタク。よ、気をつけなさい。それだと逆に落ち着かなくなるわ。
Oh man, I'm not gonna go back. I keep accidentally skipping them because they keep pausing. Oh man.
そうだったそうだった。じゃ、一つ失礼。
That was really cute. That was really cute. Aoko grabbed a piece of chocolate and popped it into her mouth. Mine. Yoink! She waved before leaving Alice alone in silence. Alice stiffened a moment before slamming the box of chocolates shut, as if it could serve to scold Aoko for snacking. That does look really good. Alright, that should be the end of it. Yeah. Okay.